My name is Nolan Bellman. I am a sophomore here at Purdue University in construction management. As you could probably guess, almost everybody in construction has a very red personality. And shocker, so do I. Through the Insights Color model we've gone through this semester, I've learned a lot about myself. I'm primarily a red frame person. This means I'm typically strong-willed, I'm confident, and I'm driven by results. At times, I also lean towards yellow, bringing energy and creativity to teams, or even blue, which means I can bring analysis and structure to a team, but I never operate from the green frame. Knowing this about myself sets the stage for how I understand leadership, both personally and organizationally. But before I go deeper into my own leadership style, it's important to ask what exactly are frames, and how do they shape the way we see ourselves and others? Frames are the lenses we use to interpret the world. They shape how we make decisions, communicate, and even connect with others. For example, the structural and political frames, which are usually your blue and red frames, are more machine-like. They're focused on efficiency and results, while the human resource and symbolic frames are typically your green and yellow frames, which are more commonly known as your community-oriented, your frames that are focused on relationships, culture, and meaning. The benefit of frames is that they give us clarity. They help us understand both our strengths and our blind spots, but no single frame is enough on its own. In today's workplace, I believe a healthy balance between the machine frames and the community frames is essential. If an organization only focuses on, let's say, its machine frames, it risks destroying empathy, creativity, and culture. But if it only focuses on its relationships, it could lose its efficiency. When both sets of frames work together, they balance each other. This allows organizations to get things done while caring for the people that are doing the work. And that's where reframing comes in. Reframing is the act of intentionally shifting perspective, moving from one frame to another to see a situation differently. It's what allows leaders to balance efficiency with empathy, strategy with culture, and interdependence with collaboration. Understanding frames in general is one thing, but applying them to myself is where the real insight into frames begin. As a red frame person, I thrive on challenges, focus, and determination. When I put myself to a task I care about, I become very locked in on this task, and I can become very hard-headed. This means sometimes I can push people out of my team because I don't want to listen to what they have to say. My weakness in this is poor listening, arrogance, and resistance to feedback. And these are just as real as my strengths in teamwork. For example, in my life, my girlfriend is a green frame person. She often wants me to just listen and understand her, but my red tendency is to give quick answers and then move on from what we're talking about. That can often be hurtful to her because sometimes people don't want answers. They just want some empathy. This has made me realize in my life how important it is to sometimes slow down, listen, and meet people in their frame, even when it's hard for me to do so. At the same time, my strengths as a red frame person, focus, and determination can have a positive impact. As a student, I like to knock out assignments in one sitting. I like to stay on top of my work and get things done efficiently. These strengths will only help me in leadership, but my weaknesses remind me that I need to adapt and sometimes reframe towards other people. Trust is another critical part of personal leadership. In the 4 cores of credibility assessment that we did this semester, I scored my highest in integrity. I believe in doing what is right even when nobody is watching. That's a strength that builds trust. But I also learned from this assessment that I need to be more patient with people. Not everybody functions the same way I do, and building trust means slowing down, listening, and sometimes just taking the time to understand others. Of course, now leadership isn't just about knowing myself. It's also about how frames apply to organizations. Frames help leaders interpret culture, structure, and team dynamics. Take culture, for example. Some say culture eats strategy for breakfast, and I agree with this. Culture is more critical than strategy in a company because it defines the workplace environment. Culture is created by employees, making it something that these employees want to be a part of every day because they were part of creating it. Strategies often come from leadership, higher up leadership, and may not fit every employee's needs. But culture adapts to employees and creates alignment between high top employees and just a regular working person. And my church is a great example of this. The values that are lived out by members shape identity and belonging, and leaders must balance their culture with strategy, and reframing helps them to often do this. My structural preference in a group setting is actually hierarchy. This means that everybody has a single reporting responsibility. I believe it's very efficient, it's very clear, and it's much like the way we were raised in school. This fits my red frame preference for clarity and results. But reframing reminds me that no structure is perfect. We also went over the 7 by 7 structure in this semester, and that also helped me realize that sometimes having more people than just one reporting person helps clarity and sometimes efficiency in companies. However, as a red person, hierarchy is the way I lean. Now, leaders must adapt structures to fit organizational needs, and this can be found in team dynamics. Team dynamics show how frames play out in modern organizations. Remote work and technology has changed how teams interact, and we saw this especially in the COVID era, and this often reduced interdependence and created more independence in people. Leaders had to reframe their approach to balance this independence with collaboration, and trust became the cornerstone of effective teams. This became very evident in red and yellow people who were given a little more freedom during this time, when really they needed to shift more to blue and green, where they were more focused on team and structure, and this is what really proved to be effective in having an efficient team at the time. You needed to both trust others and enable others to trust you. So, when I step back and connect all this, I see that successful leadership requires balance. My red frame gives me clarity, confidence, and drive, but reframing helps me adapt to culture, structure, and team needs. Frames help me understand myself and my relationships, while reframing helps me grow into the kind of leader where I can balance efficiency with empathy, the strategy with culture, and independence with trust. That's how frames shape not only who I am, but also the kind of leader I strive to be.